All right, let's dive right in and have a look at these guitar parts. We're going to start off with two electric stutter guitars, and together, soloed out, they sound like this. Okay, so what's going on here is that I have the same part on the left and on the right, so I've just recorded it twice. So let's try and turn off the plugins on this. So it's a very high frequency based. I believe it's my Marshall Plexi with all the lows rolled off it. And then I've applied a filter gate, a little bit more saturation, and then some beefiness from the BX console app, plugin rather. So let's mute the right one, and I'll show you what each one does. So the filter gate on the left is creating a 16th note pulse. So this is without it, and then with it. You see, you can make these harder or softer by taking the mix down, but for this one, I wanted it to be, very hard stutter. So what happens here is we've got a 16th note happening, then we've added a little bit of saturation from the soft tube saturation. It's a little bit of beef. And then we really try and bring up the mid-range through the BX console app. The BX console, as you'll see, is something that I use pretty much on all channels. And if you were to buy only one plugin, I would strongly recommend that this be the one. So that's what's going on the left. And then on the right, we have the same thing, except for we have a filter gate, which is, instead of being a 16th note, it's going to be an 8th note. And the same thing mixed in hard. So you can hear this on its own. Right? So together they create like their own little beat. So that's the main guitar for the intro. Now, I fade it out when the vocals come in, because then another guitar takes over. So see, that fades out. So let's just hear what happens when that comes in. And again, I think that is the Marshall Plexi as well, with a Les Paul going into it, and just take the volume all the way down on it. And I've dubbed it, and it's very sloppy and it's a bit ugly, but I found that's what works with it, especially when you have the stutter guitar that fades out underneath it. Okay, so I thought, that sounds quite respectable, but the thing that I struggle to find, what I struggle to really nail on home recordings, is that I don't have a room that's big enough to capture the sound of a room, if you will. And this is very common for most people who record at home. So I use the Universal Audio Lexicon 224 plugin, and it's got a couple of really great room sounds in there. So I send all four of these guitars into the room, and it just adds a little, dimension to it. See? See, without it, with it. And there we go. Now we're into the chorus. So the chorus, this is where we start getting a little bit more heavy. And we have got on the left, we have got a Strat also going into a Marshall Plexi. Not too much drive, just enough. Have a listen. Now, if I was to record that again, I'd probably even use less gain than that, to be honest. I mean, it works for the song, don't get me wrong, but less gain always sounds better when it's recorded live too, actually. But anyway, that's on the left, and on the right, I have just doubled it. So, they are quite high frequency based, so I thought I'm going to take another guitar and I'm going to record the same thing, but have the amp focused more on the lower end. So I took a Les Paul and I dialed in a sort of heavier tone. I believe I also took, you see, I took quite a lot of the highs off it. This is so I have two guitars that each represent one end of the spectrum, so you can kind of play with the overall balance and low end without having to use too much plug-in to do that. Sometimes it's just something I like to do. It's not something you can't achieve with plugins, but it's just kind of fun. Anyway, that is dubbed on each side. And none of those sound nice on their own, but when you take all four of them together, so right after that, that's where the second part of the chorus comes in, where Nicole starts really going for it. So to accentuate that, I've brought in, I believe it's my PRS and a Brunetti amp. So kind of a much heavier tone. Right. Dub that again. So all of those together. Okay, cool. Now then, I've also used a room for this. So you see, we'll switch it on. You hear that? It's quite subtle. That's because it's only the lower end Les Paul which I'm sending to that room, and I've left the higher end Strat just direct, so you get the sort of the closeness and the width of having a room in there somewhere. So that's about it for the chorus. We're back into the verse. Now at the end of this is exactly the same as the first verse, but I've just doubled with a slightly heavier tone coming out of it. If you can hear, I'm going to mute them first. So we've got a down and out, and then I've doubled that with a slightly heavier tone. So it's just slightly different from the first time around we do that. Right. So what else have we got? Ah, yes. Now this is gonna get a little bit ugly now, because here is the lead guitar, and it's not very pleasant, to be honest. Let's see here. else. So this is from the Avid 11 rack, and it's one of those fuzz pedal simulators. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm happy with it or not, but I like it okay for now. It's basically, I think it's a Fender amp with a fuzz in front of it, and before that I put in a wah simulator, sort of right at half cock. Ah. Now I dubbed that, and I just played it an octave higher. Now I actually wanted it to stay dry like that, but it doesn't fit very well because there's quite a lot of effects going on the vocals and everything basically. So I did put a delay and a plate reverb on the same channel, and I sent it to the room as well, so you can hear it here with the delay on it. It's so bad. So disgusting. I mean, like, check at the end I've got I do this ad lib little thing. You see that? But it has to be played like that if you want to make it sound a bit like. Oh, that's so disgusting. Wow. But, I mean, we don't have the full band over it yet. But, I mean, if you just listen to it in context with the guitars. That starts sounding much better. And that's about it for the guitars for this song, to be honest. There's not that many of them. I try to keep it relatively simple. Make sure you come back and check out the little episode I'm going to do on the vocals, because they are really, really, really awesome as well. I'll show you what we kind of did with them, and I might do a little section on the bass and drums, but I'm not a drummer, I'm not a bass player, I don't really know what I'm doing with either of them, so I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this little insight, and I will see you soon. Make sure that you subscribe, or that you stay subscribed. Just subscribe, okay? I mean, this is cool stuff, right?